USPS tossed my medication over the fence, so I sued them with their own tracking data. I never thought I'd become the person who takes on the United States Postal Service in court. But life has a way of pushing you into corners you never expected to find yourself in. My name's not important, but my story might be, especially if you've ever found yourself at the mercy of a delivery system that seems designed to work against you. I live in a modest neighborhood in Portland, Oregon. It's not fancy, but it's home, and until last October, I never had any real issues with mail delivery. I have a condition that requires daily medication, the kind that keeps me functioning like a normal human being, the kind that costs a small fortune even with insurance, and the kind that can't be picked up at your neighborhood pharmacy. It has to be shipped from a specialty pharmacy in temperature-controlled packaging, delivered on time every month without fail. For 3 years, this system worked flawlessly. Then came the rainy season, and with it, a new mail carrier on our route. I tracked that October shipment obsessively. My supply was running low, down to just 4 days' worth, when my phone pinged with a notification. Delivered, front door/porch. I rushed to my front door. Nothing. I checked around the bushes, behind the planters, under the welcome mat. Nothing. I called USPS customer service immediately. The representative assured me that according to their records, the package had been delivered at 2:43 p.m. to my front door. I explained that I had been home all day, working from my living room which faces the front yard. I would have seen or heard anyone approaching my door. "I'm sorry, sir, but our tracking shows the package was delivered." The voice on the other end repeated mechanically. "Can you tell me exactly where it was left?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite the panic rising inside me. "The carrier's notes indicate it was left at your front door." "I'm standing at my front door right now. There's nothing here." "Perhaps a neighbor took it in for safekeeping?" I spent the next 3 hours knocking on neighbors' doors. No one had seen my package. As darkness fell, along with the temperature, I returned home defeated. Without that medication, I'd be in serious trouble within days. That night, as I lay awake listening to the rain pound against my bedroom window, I made a decision. This wasn't just about a missing package anymore. This was about my health, my well-being, and a system that seemed perfectly content to gaslight me rather than solve the problem. The next morning, I did what any desperate person would do. I installed a security camera facing my front yard. It wouldn't help me find my missing medication, but it might prevent this from happening again. Little did I know that this decision would change everything. 3 days later, after spending hours on the phone with my insurance company and the specialty pharmacy, I finally received approval for an emergency refill. It cost me an additional $220 out of pocket, but at least I wouldn't have to experience the debilitating symptoms of withdrawal. I requested that this replacement package be delivered with a signature requirement, meaning someone would have to physically sign for it when it arrived. This would cost extra, but it seemed worth it for peace of mind. The day the replacement was scheduled to arrive, I positioned myself in my living room, laptop open, pretending to work while actually watching my front yard like a hawk. My newly installed security camera was also recording, its presence marked by a small sign I'd placed next to my mailbox. "Smile, you're on camera." At 3:18 p.m., the familiar white USPS truck pulled up in front of my house. I watched through the window as the carrier, a middle-aged man I'd never seen before, approached my gate with a package in hand. Instead of opening the gate and walking the 20 feet to my front door, he glanced at the house, then at the package, then back at the house. What happened next made my blood boil. Without even attempting to ring my doorbell or knock, he took the package, my vital, temperature-sensitive, expensive medication, and tossed it over my 4-foot fence. It landed with a soft thud in a puddle on my lawn, a good 30 feet from my porch. I was out the door in seconds, but by the time I reached the front yard, the carrier was already back in his truck, pulling away from the curb. I retrieved my package, now sitting in muddy water, the temperature control packaging compromised. That night, I reviewed the security footage. There it was in crisp 1080p resolution, clear evidence of negligence. The carrier hadn't even tried to deliver the package properly. He hadn't rang the doorbell. He hadn't attempted to get a signature as required. He had simply tossed a critical medical supply over a fence and left. I was livid, but now I had something I didn't have before: proof. The next day, I filed a formal complaint with the local post office, attaching still images from my security footage. The station manager called me back within hours, apologizing profusely and assuring me that the carrier would be spoken to about proper delivery procedures. "That's not good enough," I told her. "This isn't about proper procedures. This is about a carrier who deliberately ignored delivery instructions on a package clearly marked as containing medication. I want to know what actual steps will be taken to ensure this never happens again." "Sir, I assure you we take these matters very seriously," she replied, her tone suggesting anything but. "However, personnel matters are confidential." I hung up, unsatisfied with her response. That's when I decided to dig deeper into my rights as a postal customer. What I discovered would arm me for the battle ahead. Many people don't realize that USPS tracking data is far more detailed than what customers see in the standard tracking updates. When a carrier scans a package, the system records not just the time and delivery status, but also the exact GPS coordinates of where that scan took place. Armed with this knowledge, I submitted a Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) request for the complete tracking data for both of my packages, the original one that mysteriously disappeared and the replacement that got the puddle treatment. While waiting for the FOIA response, I continued my investigation. I learned that prescription medications fall under special handling guidelines for USPS. Carriers are instructed to take extra care with packages marked as containing medication. Throwing such packages is explicitly prohibited in their handling manuals. I also discovered that the Postal Service is legally required to make a bona fide attempt to deliver packages, especially those requiring signatures. A bona fide attempt means the carrier must approach the delivery location and make a reasonable effort to complete the delivery as instructed. 6 weeks later, I received the FOIA response. The data was revelatory. For the first missing package, the GPS coordinates of the delivered scan were nearly 250 feet from my front door, at the intersection down the street. The package had never been anywhere near my porch, despite what the tracking information claimed. For the replacement package, the GPS data confirmed what my camera had already shown. The scan was performed at my property line, not at my door where a signature should have been collected. I now had 2 critical pieces of evidence: video footage showing the carrier tossing my package over the fence, and official USPS data proving that proper delivery procedures weren't followed for either package. With this evidence in hand, I filed a formal complaint with the USPS Consumer Advocate Office and the Postal Regulatory Commission. I detailed the entire saga, attached all my evidence, and made it clear that I expected compensation for 1. The cost of the emergency replacement medication. 2. The cost of the security camera I had to install. 3. The emotional distress and time wasted dealing with the situation. Their response? A form letter apologizing for my inconvenience and offering a book of stamps as compensation. That's when I decided to take it to small claims court. Filing a lawsuit against a federal agency isn't as straightforward as suing an individual or a private company. The Federal Tort Claims Act, FTCA, requires that you first file an administrative claim with the agency before you can take them to court. I filed the required standard Form 95 with the USPS, claiming $1,250 in damages, the exact cost of my emergency medication refill, the security camera, and 2 days' worth of lost wages spent dealing with the situation. When the USPS rejected my claim 6 months later, offering instead a $50 credit toward future shipping, I finally had the legal right to file in federal court. But rather than going through the expense and complexity of federal court, I opted for small claims court, which allows claims against federal agencies in certain circumstances. The day of the hearing arrived. I wore my best suit and brought 3 copies of all my evidence: the security footage on a tablet, the GPS data from the FOIA request, printouts of USPS's own delivery policies, and detailed records of all my expenses. The USPS sent a legal representative who looked surprised to see the level of preparation I'd brought to the table. His argument was simple. The Postal Service has limited liability for mail issues, and I had eventually received my medication. When my turn came to present, I didn't focus on emotion or outrage. I simply laid out the facts. Your Honor, USPS has specific policies regarding the delivery of medication and packages requiring signatures. Their own tracking data, which I obtained through a FOIA request, proves that these policies were violated not once, but twice. The first package was scanned as delivered at a location 250 feet from my home. The second package, which required a signature, was tossed over my fence into a puddle, as this video clearly shows. I played the security footage. The judge's expression darkened as she watched the carrier toss the package over the fence without even attempting to approach my door. Furthermore, I continued, USPS regulations explicitly state that medications require special handling and must never be thrown. Their own GPS data confirms that the carrier never approached my door, where a signature was required. The USPS representative attempted to argue that GPS data can have a margin of error, but the judge wasn't buying it, not when combined with the video evidence. The Postal Service is not above its own regulations, she stated when delivering her verdict. The evidence clearly shows negligence in the handling of medically necessary items. She awarded me the full $1,250 I had requested, plus $120 in court costs. As I left the courthouse that day, I felt a strange mix of vindication and exhaustion. The battle had taken nearly 9 months from start to finish, countless hours of research, phone calls, and paperwork. Was it worth it for $1,370? Financially speaking, probably not. But this was never really about the money. It was about accountability. It was about standing up against a system that too often dismisses individual concerns as insignificant. My new mail carrier, who started on our route shortly after my complaint, delivers my medication to my door every month without fail. He rings the doorbell, waits for an answer, and handles the packages with care. Sometimes, the only way to change a broken system is to challenge it, armed with evidence, persistence, and the unwavering belief that even the smallest person deserves to be treated with dignity. If there's one lesson I've learned from all this, it's that data doesn't lie. In a world where your word against theirs rarely ends in your favor, having concrete evidence changes everything. So install that security camera. Keep those receipts. Document everything. You never know when you'll need to prove your case, even against something as seemingly untouchable as the United States Postal Service.